On the day Shen Yuexin died in the cold dungeon, the man she loved stood beside another woman and watched her drink poison without mercy. But when heaven gave the Empire's most hated villainess a second chance, she swore she would never love the Crown Prince again. This time, she would make everyone who betrayed her kneel beneath her feet. Heavy snow covered the imperial palace of Great Liang. Deep beneath the palace, inside a freezing underground prison, a woman in a blood-stained red dress lay chained to the ground. Her name was Shen Yuexin, the most hated woman in the Empire, the infamous villainess, the woman everyone cursed, and tonight she would die. The sound of footsteps echoed slowly through the dungeon. A tall man wearing black imperial robes appeared before her cell. Cold, elegant, untouchable. Crown Prince, Zhao Junli, the man Shen Yuexin loved for 10 years. The man who personally destroyed her life. Behind him stood a delicate woman dressed in white fur, soft-looking, gentle, fragile, like a pure lotus untouched by mud. Her name was Ruoxu, and the woman Zhao Junli truly loved. Shen Yuexin slowly lifted her head. Her face was pale from torture, but her eyes still trembled slightly when she looked at Zhao Junli. Even now, she still loved him. How pathetic. Zhao Junli stared at her coldly. "You poisoned Ruoxu." Shen Yuexin suddenly laughed weakly. "You still believe her?" Ruoxu immediately lowered her eyes as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Your Highness, please don't fight because of me." Zhao Junli's expression became even colder. Shen Yuexin looked at Ruoxu silently. That innocent face, that weak voice, exactly the same. The same expression Ruoxu used every single time she framed her, and every time. Zhao Junli chose Ruoxu, never her, not once. Shen Yuexin suddenly laughed again, but this time her laughter sounded broken. "Zhao Junli, the entire world could stab me, but the knife that killed me was always yours." For a brief second, Zhao Junli's fingers trembled, but only briefly. Then his face turned cold again. "You deserve this." A servant stepped forward carrying poisoned wine. Shen Yuexin froze. So this was truly the end. After sacrificing everything for him, after staining her hands with blood to help him become Crown Prince, this was how he repaid her. She remembered every war she secretly helped him win, every enemy she destroyed for his sake, every humiliation she endured, just to stand beside him. Yet in the end, he called her a monster. Before drinking the poison, she looked at Zhao Junli one final time. "If heaven gives me another life, I will never love you again." Then she drank it. The poison burned through her throat instantly. Blood spilled from her lips. Pain swallowed her whole. And the last thing Shen Yuexin saw before darkness consumed her was Ruoxu smiling behind Zhao Junli's back, a victorious smile. And then everything went dark. "Noble Lady Shen," a panicked voice suddenly echoed through the darkness. Shen Yuexin abruptly opened her eyes. She gasped for breath violently. Warm sunlight touched her face. No chains, no blood, no dungeon. She froze. Several maids stood around her bed looking relieved. "My lady? Thank heaven you finally woke up. The spring banquet will begin soon." Shen Yuexin's pupils shrank instantly. Spring banquet. Her breathing stopped. Impossible. She immediately rushed toward the bronze mirror nearby and froze completely. A young woman stared back at her reflection. Beautiful pale skin, long black hair, silver hairpin untouched by blood. Her younger self. Before the torture, before the betrayal, before death. Shen Yuexin's fingers trembled violently. She remembered this exact day. The spring banquet. The day Byra Aksu first entered the palace, the beginning of her nightmare. Slowly, Shen Yuexin touched her reflection. Alive. She was alive again. Then suddenly, she laughed softly. The maids exchanged nervous looks. My lady? Shen Yuexin slowly raised her head, but the warmth in her eyes was gone. Completely gone. Only coldness remained. So heaven truly pitied me. This time, I will personally drag them into hell. The imperial palace glittered beneath thousands of lanterns. Noble families filled the grand hall. Music echoed elegantly through the banquet. And seated near the emperor was Crown Prince Xiao Junli. Tall, cold, perfect. The same man Shen Yuexin once loved enough to die for. Her chest tightened slightly, but only for a second. Then the feeling disappeared, because the Shen Yuexin who loved Xiao Junli already died in the dungeon. Tonight, only the villainess remained. Xiao Junli noticed her immediately, because usually, Shen Yuexin would already be following him everywhere. But tonight, she didn't even glance at him. For some reason, that made Xiao Junli uncomfortable. Whispers spread across the hall. Lady Shen seems different. She's unusually quiet tonight. At that moment, another young woman entered the banquet hall, wearing pure white hanfu, looking innocent and elegant. Bai Ruoxu, the future woman who would ruin Shen Yuexin's life. The hall instantly filled with admiration. She's so beautiful. She looks like a fairy. Bai Ruoxu shyly walked forward. Then suddenly, she accidentally slipped near Shen Yuexin. Wine spilled across her white dress. Gasps erupted everywhere. In her previous life, this was where the nightmare began. Everyone accused Shen Yuexin of bullying Bai Ruoxu. Xiao Junli publicly humiliated her, and Bai Ruoxu gained sympathy from the entire palace. But this time, Shen Yuexin calmly placed down her teacup, then smiled coldly, searched the floor. The hall instantly fell silent. Bai Ruoxu's expression stiffened briefly. Servants quickly inspected the marble floor, and immediately found oil beneath Bai Ruoxu's shoes. The crowd exploded into whispers. She did it herself? How shameless. Bai Ruoxu's face turned pale instantly. Meanwhile, Xiao Junli stared at Shen Yuexin strangely. Something about her had changed completely, and for some reason, he could not look away. Later that night, Shen Yuexin stood alone beside the lotus pond. Moonlight reflected beautifully across the water. Cold wind danced through her black hair. Then footsteps approached from behind. Xiao Junli. You embarrassed Ruoxu tonight. Shen Yuexin didn't even turn around. She embarrassed herself. Xiao Junli narrowed his eyes. Usually she would desperately explain herself to him. But tonight, her voice sounded indifferent, as if he no longer mattered. And strangely, that irritated him. You've changed, Xiao Junli said coldly. Finally, Shen Yuexin turned around. Her eyes were colder than winter itself. People change after disappointment. For a brief second, Xiao Junli's chest tightened. Before he could respond, Shen Yuexin bowed slightly, then walked past him without hesitation, without looking back. Xiao Junli remained standing silently beneath the moonlight. For the first time, the crown prince felt uneasy, and he didn't understand why. 3 nights later, Shen Yuexin secretly left the manor during heavy rain. Her black cloak fluttered violently in the storm. Finally, she stopped before an abandoned temple outside the capital. Inside the darkness stood a tall man. Cold, golden eyes stared at her sharply. Shen Yuexin had never realized before that Xiao Chun was incredibly handsome. Even more handsome than the crown prince himself. Prince Yan Xiao Chun, the emperor's forgotten son. the man feared by the entire capital. In Shen Yuexin's previous life, Xiao Chun was falsely accused of treason and executed. But Shen Yuexin knew the truth. He was innocent, just like her. You asked to meet me, Xiao Chun said coldly. Speak. Shen Yuexin slowly removed her hood. Rainwater dripped from her hair. Then the villainess smiled faintly. I know who betrayed you. Xiao Chun's eyes darkened instantly. Thunder roared outside, and for the first time, the game of revenge truly began. Rain poured heavily over the capital city. Inside an abandoned temple outside the palace walls, two figures sat facing each other beneath flickering candlelight. One was the Empire's most infamous villainess, the other, the Empire's most feared prince. Shen Yuexin calmly sipped her tea while Xiao Chun silently observed her from across the table. The atmosphere between them was dangerously quiet. Finally, Xiao Chun spoke first. You said you know who betrayed me. His voice was cold and low. Shen Yuexin slowly lifted her eyes. In her previous life, Xiao Chun was falsely accused of treason and executed publicly. The entire empire celebrated his death, but Shen Yuexin knew the truth. Xiao Chun had been framed by the crown prince's faction, by the empress, and by Bai Ruoxu. Shen Yuexin placed the teacup down gently. The Ministry of War, the Left Chancellor, and the Crown Prince's Eastern Intelligence Network. Xiao Chun's gaze instantly sharpened. How do you know that? Shen Yuexin smiled faintly. A villainess always has her ways. For several seconds, Xiao Chun simply stared at her silently, as though trying to see through her soul. Then suddenly, he laughed quietly, a low, dangerous laugh. Interesting. Very interesting. This woman was completely different from the foolish noble lady the rumors described. Shen Yuexin noticed his gaze and calmly met his eyes. For the first time, she truly looked at Xiao Chun carefully. In her previous life, she had been too obsessed with Xiao Junli to notice anyone else. But now, she suddenly realized something shocking. Xiao Jun was incredibly handsome. Even more handsome than the crown prince himself. Under the candlelight, his sharp features looked almost unreal. Cold golden eyes, long black hair, dangerous elegance, like a blade hidden beneath silk. And unlike Xiao Junlei's controlled gentleness, Xiao Chun carried something darker, something terrifying. Shen Yuexin quickly looked away. Dangerous. This man was extremely dangerous. Meanwhile, Xiao Chun quietly noticed the brief pause in her eyes. A faint smile appeared on his lips. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. Suddenly, thunder exploded outside. The temple doors burst open. A masked assassin rushed inside with a sword. Without hesitation, Xiao Chun instantly pulled Shen Yuexin behind him. Clang! Sparks exploded as swords collided. Several more assassins appeared from the darkness. Shen Yuexin's eyes narrowed. Someone discovered their meeting. The assassins attacked fiercely, but Xiao Chun moved like death itself. Cold, fast, merciless. Blood splattered across the temple floor. Within moments, every assassin was dead. Shen Yuexin stared slightly stunned. In her previous life, rumors claimed Xiao Chun was terrifying on the battlefield. Now, she understood why. He was a monster. Xiao Chun slowly wiped blood from his sword, then looked toward her calmly. Are you afraid? Shen Yuexin met his gaze quietly. No, for some reason. That answer made Xiao Chun's eyes darken slightly. Outside, the storm continued, and beneath the sound of rain, the alliance between the villainies and the Forgotten Prince officially began. 3 days later, the imperial court descended into chaos. Several officials connected to the Bai family were suddenly arrested for corruption. The evidence was flawless. Secret ledgers, hidden gold, illegal military trades. Everything pointed directly toward Bai family allies. Inside the palace, Biroxu's face turned pale after hearing the news. Impossible. How could this happen so suddenly? In her previous life, none of this was exposed. Meanwhile, across the hall, Shen Yuexin calmly drank tea as though nothing concerned her. Elegant, untouchable, cold. Biruoxu clenched her fists beneath her sleeves. Ever since the spring banquet, everything had started going wrong. And the source of all her problems was Shen Yuexin. At that moment, Zhao Junli entered the hall. The maids immediately bowed, but instead of looking toward Biruoxu, his eyes instinctively searched for Shen Yuexin and found her sitting beside the window quietly reading. Moonlight illuminated her pale face beautifully. Something about her had changed completely. In the past, Shen Yuexin's eyes followed him everywhere. Now, she barely acknowledged his existence. For a moment, Zhao Junli became distracted. Strangely, that made him restless. Meanwhile, Biruoxu noticed his gaze instantly. Her expression darkened slightly. No, this was bad. Very bad. She immediately walked toward Zhao Junli with teary eyes. Your Highness, my family has been falsely accused. As expected, Zhao Junli comforted her gently. But for some reason, his attention kept drifting toward Shen Yuexin. And Shen Yuexin noticed. Of course she noticed. After all, in her previous life, her entire world revolved around Zhao Junli. She knew every expression he made, every subtle emotion, and right now, the crown prince was beginning to notice her again. How laughable. Only after she stopped loving him did he start paying attention. Shen Yuexin lowered her eyes coldly. Too late. Everything was already too late. That night, inside the prison cells, one arrested official finally broke under torture. The Bai family ordered everything. The confession spread across the capital overnight. Rumors exploded everywhere, and for the first time, Biruoxu felt genuine fear. The palace held another royal gathering several days later. This time, Biruoxu arrived wearing pure white once again, like an innocent lotus flower untouched by sin. But beneath her sleeves, her fingers trembled slightly. Ever since the corruption scandal, her reputation had started cracking, and she knew exactly why. Shen Yuexin. That woman had become unpredictable, dangerous. Meanwhile, Shen Yuexin calmly sat beside the lotus pond sipping tea. Beautiful, noble ladies surrounded the gathering. Soft music floated through the air. Everything looked peaceful. Until suddenly, Biruoxu collapsed onto the ground, coughing blood. The entire gathering erupted into panic. Miss Bai, call the imperial physician. Biruoxu weakly pointed toward Shen Yuexin with trembling fingers. The tea. My tea. Everyone's eyes turned toward Shen Yuexin, exactly like the previous life, in her past life. This accusation destroyed her reputation completely. Zhao Junli had publicly humiliated her that day, and Biruoxu gained everyone's sympathy once again. But this time, Shen Yuexin remained perfectly calm. Too calm. Zhao Junli frowned slightly. Something felt wrong. The imperial physician quickly examined the poisoned tea. There is poison inside. Gasps spread everywhere. All eyes turned toward Shen Yuexin again, but instead of panicking, the villainess smiled faintly. Then she slowly walked up closer to her. Interesting. Her silver eyes landed directly on Biruoxu. Should I reveal it myself? Or would Miss Bai prefer to confess first? For a brief second, Biruoxu's expression froze. Shen Yuexin calmly clapped her hands once, immediately. A palace maid was dragged forward crying. Everyone looked shocked, because the maid belonged to Bai Ruoxu. The maid fell to the floor trembling. I was forced. Miss Bai ordered me to poison the tea. The entire gathering fell silent. But Ruoxu's face turned deathly pale. No, she's lying. But Shen Yuexin calmly interrupted. The poison was hidden inside your maid's sleeve pouch, and several servants witnessed her approaching the tea table earlier. Every word struck like a blade, perfectly precise, impossible to escape. For the first time, the innocent white lotus began cracking in front of everyone. Zhao Junli immediately frowned and looked toward Bai Ruoxu with growing suspicion. His gaze shifted toward Shen Yuexin. Complex emotions flickered inside his dark eyes for the first time. And standing beneath the falling flower petals, Shen Yuexin looked colder than winter itself. After the poisoning incident, rumors spread across the capital like wildfire. For years, Bai Ruoxu had carefully maintained the image of a pure and innocent woman. But now, cracks had finally begun to appear. Inside her chamber, Bai Ruoxu smashed a porcelain vase onto the floor. Her face twisted with fury. How is she suddenly this difficult to deal with? The maid beside her trembled in fear. Ever since Shen Yuexin changed, everything had started falling apart. Inside the Imperial Library, Shen Yuexin calmly flipped through an old ledger. Moonlight spilled across the table beside her. Xiao Chun stood nearby, silently watching her. For some reason, he found the sight strangely calming. You already knew Bai Ruoxu would poison herself, he said quietly. Shen Yuexin didn't look up. She's always loved pretending to be the victim. Xiao Chun narrowed his eyes slightly. You sound like you know her very well. For a brief moment, Shen Yuexin's fingers paused, because she did know Bai Ruoxu too well in her previous life. Bai Ruoxu destroyed her piece by piece while smiling innocently the entire time. Shen Yuexin slowly closed the ledger. She once caused the death of Consort Lin. Xiao Chun's gaze sharpened instantly. Consort Lin's death had shocked the palace years ago. Everyone believed it was illness. You have proof? Xiao Chun asked. Shen Yuexin smiled faintly. Not yet, but soon. A few days later, another scandal exploded inside the palace. A former servant of Bai Ruoxu was secretly arrested while trying to flee the capital. Under interrogation, the servant confessed that Bai Ruoxu had bribed palace physicians in the past. Rumors instantly spread everywhere. The once perfect Bai Ruoxu slowly became surrounded by suspicion, and for the first time, people began fearing the woman behind the innocent smile. Meanwhile, Zhao Junli sat silently inside his study. His expression was dark. Fragments of past events replayed endlessly in his mind. Every accusation, every misunderstanding. Every time Bai Ruoxu cried while Shen Yuexin remained silent. Could it be? He truly misunderstood Shen Yuexin all along? Suddenly, he remembered Shen Yuexin's cold eyes during the banquet. No anger, no sadness, only disappointment. For some reason, that expression unsettled him deeply. Snow slowly fell across the palace rooftops. Shen Yuexin walked through the royal garden quietly beneath the lantern lights. Then suddenly a hand grabbed her wrist. She stopped immediately. Zhao Junli. His dark eyes stared at her intensely. Why are you avoiding me? Shen Yuexin slowly looked down at his hand, then back at him. Cold, emotionless. Should I not? Xiao Junli frowned. In the past, Shen Yuexin would have smiled happily even if he merely glanced at her. But now, every time she looked at him, it felt like she was looking at a stranger. And strangely, that made his chest tighten. Meanwhile, Shen Yuexin calmly pulled her hand away. For some reason, he hated hearing her speak like this. Cold, distant, untouchable. Especially when she stood beside Xiaochun. Recently, he kept seeing them together, talking privately, walking side by side, exchanging quiet glances, every single time. Jealousy burned violently inside him, and he couldn't understand why. Your Highness should spend more time worrying about Miss Bai, Shen Yuexin said. The moment Bai Ruoxu's name appeared, Xiao Junli's expression darkened slightly, because lately, he had started noticing things he ignored before. The way Bai Ruoxu manipulated people with tears, the way servants looked nervous around her, the inconsistencies in her stories. Doubt slowly began poisoning his trust. Meanwhile, Shen Yuexin walked past him without hesitation. The scent of plum blossoms lingered briefly in the cold air. Xiao Junli remained standing there silently, watching her leave. For the first time in his life, the Crown Prince realized something terrifying. He didn't want Shen Yuexin to leave his side, and that realization came far too late. Shen Yuexin secretly entered the abandoned Eastern Archive Hall. Dust filled the air. Rows of forgotten records surrounded her. In her previous life, she never cared about palace politics. Her entire world revolved around Zhao Junlei. How foolish. Now, she finally understood the truth. This palace was never a place for love, only power. Suddenly, her fingers stopped on an old document. Shen Yuexin's eyes narrowed. It was a hidden financial record connected to the Empress's faction, and written beside several secret transactions was the Bai family's name. A cold chill ran down her spine. So it was true. She had merely been a disposable pawn used to eliminate obstacles around the Crown Prince. The Empress had secretly supported Bai Ruoxu from the very beginning. Slowly, everything started connecting together. The framing, the rumors, the poison, even her execution in the previous life. None of it happened by accident. She had merely been a disposable pawn used to eliminate obstacles around the Crown Prince. Shen Yuexin slowly clenched the document tightly. Hatred surged through her chest once more. Not only toward Bai Ruoxu, not only toward Zhao Junlin, but toward the entire imperial palace itself. At that moment, a familiar voice echoed behind her. You finally discovered it. Shen Yuexin immediately turned around. Xiao Chun stood within the shadows quietly watching her. Moonlight illuminated his sharp features. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Xiao Chun slowly walked closer. This palace devours everyone eventually, he said softly. Shen Yuexin lowered her eyes briefly. In her previous life, it devoured her completely. But this time, she would become the one doing the devouring. The morning court session erupted into chaos. The Shen family is guilty of treason. A minister's furious voice echoed throughout the throne hall. Several officials immediately stepped forward one after another. Accusations flooded endlessly. Illegal military dealings, secret alliances, hidden weapons. Every accusation pointed toward the Shen family. Meanwhile, Shen Yuexin stood silently beside her father. In her previous life, this exact incident destroyed her entire family. Her father was imprisoned, her brothers executed, and she desperately begged Xiao Junlei for help, but he ignored her. Because Bai Ruoxu convinced him the Shen family truly planned rebellion. Shen Yuexin's fingers slowly tightened beneath her sleeves. Never again. This time, she had already prepared everything. Just as the ministers finished accusing the Shen family, Shen Yuexin calmly stepped forward. Your Majesty. The entire hall fell silent. Even the emperor looked surprised. Usually noble ladies never interfered with court matters, but Shen Yuexin's expression remained calm. Then, she presented several secret ledgers before the throne. These records proved the transactions were forged, and the real owner of the illegal weapons. Her silver eyes slowly shifted toward one minister kneeling nearby. Is Minister Zhao? The minister's face instantly turned pale. The court exploded into chaos. How is that possible? That's impossible. But Shen Yuexin continued speaking calmly, every word sharp and precise. One by one. Meanwhile, Xiao Junli stared at her in shock. He had never seen this side of Shen Yuexin before. Cold, intelligent, terrifyingly composed. And, for some reason, he couldn't look away. By the end of the trial, Minister Zhao collapsed to the floor in terror after his crimes were exposed completely. The Shen family was declared innocent. And from that day onward, the capital began whispering a new title, the Cold-Blooded Phoenix. Heavy snow poured outside the Crown Prince's palace. Inside his study, Zhao Junli sat silently in darkness. Several investigation reports lay scattered across the table. Every single one pointed toward Bai Ruoxu. Bribed servants, false testimonies, secret schemes hidden behind tears and innocence. The deeper he investigated, the more disturbed he became. Fragments of recent events replayed endlessly in his mind. The poisoning incident, the frightened maid, Bai Ruoxu's inconsistent explanations, and most of all, Shen Yuexin's cold eyes. For the first time, Zhao Junli began wondering if he had misunderstood her all along. At that moment, Bai Ruoxu entered the study quietly. Your Highness. The moment Xiao Junli looked at her, his expression darkened slightly, because now, instead of feeling pity, he only felt irritation. Bai Ruoxu carefully approached him. The rumors outside are becoming worse. Yuexin clearly still hates me. Before she could continue, Xiao Junli suddenly interrupted coldly. Enough. Bai Ruoxu froze instantly. Xiao Junli slowly lifted his eyes toward her. For the first time, there was disappointment in his gaze. Stop blaming everything on Shen Yuexin. Bai Ruoxu's face turned pale. Outside the palace, snow slowly covered the capital streets. Shen Yuexin walked calmly beneath the lantern lights. Then suddenly, a familiar voice called her name. Yuexin. She stopped walking immediately. Zhao Junli stood several steps behind her. Snowflakes landed across his dark robes. His gaze toward her looked unusually complicated. Shen Yuexin's expression remained indifferent. What does your highness want? Zhao Junli stared at her silently for a moment. Finally, Zhao Junli spoke quietly. You've really changed. Shen Yuexin smiled faintly. Cold, beautiful, distant. People change. Then she walked past him without hesitation, leaving Xiao Junli standing alone beneath the falling snow, watching her disappear slowly into the night. The Lantern Festival illuminated the entire capital in gold. Countless lanterns floated across the night sky like glowing stars. Crowds filled the streets, laughing happily. Music echoed everywhere. But hidden beneath the celebration, danger quietly approached. Inside her carriage, Shen Yuexin calmly watched the lanterns outside. Her silver earrings swayed gently beneath the warm lights. Then suddenly, the horses screamed. The carriage shook violently. Protect Lady Shen! Several guards shouted in panic. But before anyone could react, masked assassins burst from the shadows. Cold blades flashed beneath the lantern lights. The carriage door shattered instantly. Shen Yuexin's eyes narrowed, so they finally made their move. An assassin lunged directly toward her, but before the blade could touch her, clang! Another sword blocked the attack instantly. Sparks exploded into the night. His golden eyes looked terrifyingly cold beneath the falling snow. Stay behind me, he said. The assassins attacked all at once, but Xiao Chun moved like death itself, fast, precise, merciless. Blood splattered across the snowy streets. Screams echoed everywhere. One assassin tried attacking Shen Yuexin from behind, but Xiao Chun instantly grabbed the man's throat and snapped it coldly. His expression didn't even change, as though killing meant nothing to him. Meanwhile, Shen Yuexin silently watched his back. For some reason, standing behind Xiao Chun felt strangely safe. Finally, the last assassin collapsed lifelessly onto the snow. The streets became silent once more. Then, suddenly, Xiao Chun turned toward Shen Yuexin. A small cut stained the corner of her cheek with blood. Xiao Chun's eyes instantly darkened. His fingers gently brushed the blood away. The touch was cold, yet strangely careful. "Whoever hurt you will pay for it," he said. The terrifying possessiveness hidden inside Xiao Chun's eyes. For a brief moment, Shen Yuexin's heartbeat unexpectedly faltered. And hidden among the distant crowd, Xiao Junli witnessed everything. The Lantern Festival attack shocked the entire palace. Within one night, rumors spread throughout the capital. Prince Chun personally protected Lady Shen. They say he killed the assassins himself. Could the Forgotten Prince finally be making a move? Inside the imperial study, the emperor's expression darkened as he listened to the reports. For years, Xiao Chun had remained distant from politics, silent, uninvolved, easy to ignore. But recently, everything about him had started changing, and the center of that change was Shen Yuexin. The emperor slowly narrowed his eyes. "Continue watching Prince Chun," he said. Meanwhile, inside the palace garden, Shen Yuexin quietly read through hidden documents beneath the moonlight. Cold wind swept through the falling snow. Then, suddenly, her fingers froze. The document in her hand contained secret military records from years ago, records connected to Xiao Chun's previous downfall. The more Shen Yuexin read, the colder her expression became. So it was true in her previous life. Xiao Chun had been framed from the very beginning, and the people behind it were connected to the Crown Prince's faction. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed behind her. "What did you discover?" Shen Yuexin slowly turned around. Xiao Chun stood beneath the snowy night quietly watching her. Moonlight reflected across his sharp features. For some reason, his presence always carried dangerous calmness. Shen Yuexin lowered the document slightly. "You were innocent." Xiao Chun remained silent for a moment. Then he smiled faintly, a cold smile without warmth. "In this palace, innocence means nothing," he said. Snow continued falling softly around them, and for the first time, Shen Yuexin truly understood how terrifying the imperial palace really was. Several days after the Lantern Festival attack, the atmosphere inside the palace became increasingly strange, especially around Xiao Chun at first. His interest towards Shen Yuexin seemed calm and controlled, but slowly, something darker began appearing beneath that calmness. One afternoon, a royal banquet was held inside the Western Palace Hall. Noble sons and daughters gathered beneath glowing lanterns while musicians played softly in the background. Meanwhile, Shen Yuexin sat quietly near the window drinking tea. Her silver hairpin shimmered beautifully beneath the candlelight. Not far away, a young noble master finally gathered enough courage to approach her. "Lady Shen looks especially beautiful tonight," the young noble said shyly. Several nearby noble ladies immediately looked jealous. After all, Shen Yuexin had become the center of attention lately, not only because of her beauty, but because of the dangerous aura surrounding her now. Unlike before, the current Shen Yuexin no longer looked like a spoiled noble lady. She looked untouchable. Meanwhile, Shen Yuexin merely smiled politely. "You flatter me, young Master Lin," she said calmly. The young noble's face instantly turned red. Unfortunately for him, someone else was already watching from across the hall. Xiao Chun, his golden eyes quietly observed the scene in silence. The smile on Shen Yuexin's lips, the way another man looked at her. For some reason, it irritated him far more than it should. Crack! The porcelain cup inside Xiao Chun's hand suddenly fractured slightly. Several nearby servants immediately lowered their heads nervously, because everyone in the palace knew one terrifying truth. Prince Xiao Chun becoming quiet was never a good sign. Moments later, Xiao Chun finally stood up and walked directly toward them. The atmosphere instantly froze. The young noble immediately stiffened. Prince Chun, he said nervously. Xiao Chun smiled faintly, but his eyes remained cold. You seem very close to Lady Shen, Xiao Chun said calmly. The young noble instantly broke into cold sweat. Oh no, Your Highness, I only wished to greet Lady Shen, he said hurriedly. Is that so? Xiao Chun said softly. Finally. The young noble hurriedly excused himself and practically fled the hall. Silence filled the space between them. Then Xiao Chun slowly sat beside Shen Yuexin. You shouldn't smile at other men so easily, Xiao Chun said quietly. Shen Yuexin raised an eyebrow slightly. And why should that matter to Your Highness? She said calmly. For a brief second, something dark flashed across Xiao Chun's eyes. Then he leaned slightly closer. Because I dislike it, he said softly. The distance between them suddenly felt dangerous. Meanwhile, Shen Yuexin's heartbeat unexpectedly faltered for a moment. Because beneath Xiao Shen's calm expression, she could sense terrifying possessiveness growing stronger. And for the first time, even the cold villainess felt slightly unsettled. Snowstorm wind swept violently across the palace corridors. Late at night, Zhao Junli stood silently outside Shen Yuexin's courtyard. He had been there for nearly an hour. Yet still, he couldn't bring himself to leave. Ever since Shen Yuexin changed, his thoughts had become a complete mess. The colder she became, the more desperately he wanted her attention. It was driving him insane. Finally, the courtyard doors slowly opened. Shen Yuexin stepped outside beneath the lantern light. The moment she noticed Xiao Junlei, her expression remained completely indifferent, as though seeing him meant nothing. That look pierced Xiao Junlei's chest painfully. For years, Shen Yuexin's eyes were always filled with warmth whenever she looked at him. Now, there was only cold distance. Zhao Junli slowly approached her. Snowflakes landed across his dark robes silently. When did things between us become like this? Xiao Junli asked quietly. Shen Yuexin looked at him calmly. There was never an us to begin with, she said coldly. Zhao Junli froze. Its single sentence struck him harder than expected, because deep down, he knew she was right all those years. Shen Yuexin was always the one chasing after him, and he simply accepted her love as something natural, something that would never disappear. But now, everything had changed. For the first time, he understood what it meant to lose someone. Zhao Junli lowered his gaze slightly. Can't we return to how things were before? He asked softly. Shen Yuexin suddenly laughed quietly. But there was no warmth in her laughter, only mockery. Your Highness, she said calmly. The Shen Yuexin who loved you. She no longer exists, she said softly. Cold winds swept through the courtyard. Xiao Junli stood frozen beneath the falling snow, watching her turn away from him once again. And for the first time in his life, the proud crown prince finally realized something terrifying. Some things could never be repaired again. The capital soon descended into chaos once again. This time, the center of every rumor was by Roaxu. More and more secrets began surfacing. Bribed servants, manipulated noble ladies, false accusations hidden behind innocent tears. The perfect white lotus image she carefully built for years was finally collapsing. inside her chamber. Bairoaxu smashed another porcelain vase onto the floor. "How did things become like this?" she screamed hysterically. Her maids trembled in fear. Ever since Shen Yuexin changed, nothing had gone according to plan anymore. Meanwhile, inside the imperial court, another scandal exploded. A former palace physician was dragged before the emperor in chains. Under interrogation, he finally confessed everything. "It was Miss Bai who ordered the poison years ago," the physician shouted fearfully. The entire throne hall erupted instantly. The emperor's expression darkened. Even Xiao Junli froze in disbelief. Meanwhile, Bai Roaxu immediately fell to her knees crying. "No! They're framing me!" she cried desperately. Her tears fell beautifully onto the marble floor. The same tears that fooled everyone countless times before. But now, they no longer worked. Because standing nearby, Shen Yuexin calmly watched her with cold eyes. No anger, no pity. Only quiet satisfaction. Bairoaxu immediately noticed her gaze. Hatred instantly twisted her face. "It's you!" Bairoaxu screamed madly. "You ruined everything!" The hall instantly fell silent. For the first time, the innocent mask completely shattered. Everyone finally saw Bairoaxu's true face. The emperor slammed his hand against the throne angrily. "Enough!" Moments later, imperial guards dragged Bairoaxu away as she screamed desperately. Meanwhile, Xiao Junli remained standing silently, watching everything collapse before his eyes. And, strangely, his gaze slowly turned toward Shen Yuexin instead. Shen Yuexin never looked back at him, not even once. Several months later, the imperial palace became drenched in political chaos. The Empress's faction finally launched its last desperate move against Xiao Chun. But this time Zhao Chun was already prepared. War erupted inside the capital overnight. Imperial guards fought across blood-stained palace halls. Flames illuminated the dark sky, and standing at the center of it all was Xiao Chun. Cold black robe stained with blood, golden eyes colder than death itself. Anyone who stood in his path fell mercilessly. Meanwhile, inside the Eastern Palace, Shen Yuexin quietly watched the burning capital from the balcony. The final battle had finally begun. Footsteps approached behind her. Xiao Junli. He looked exhausted, broken. The proud crown prince from before no longer existed. Only regret remained. "I lost everything," Xiao Junli said bitterly. Shen Yuexin remained silent. Then, Xiao Junli slowly looked toward her. "Did you ever truly love me?" he asked quietly. For a moment, Shen Yuexin's eyes trembled faintly, because once upon a time, she loved him enough to die. But that girl no longer existed, finally. Shen Yuexin smiled faintly, a cold, beautiful smile. "I did," she said softly. Xiao Junli's chest tightened painfully, but unfortunately, Shen Yuexin continued quietly. "He realized it far too late," she said calmly. Moments later, imperial soldiers suddenly surrounded the courtyard. The battle was over. Xiao Chun had won. The crown prince slowly closed his eyes because he finally understood. The person he lost was something he could never get back again. Not even in this lifetime. Winter covered the empire in white. Inside the grand throne hall, thousands of officials knelt beneath golden light. At the very top of the palace stairs, Xiao Chun ascended the dragon throne. He finally became emperor, cold, untouchable, feared by all. And beside him stood Shen Yuexin, the infamous villainess once hated by the empire. Now, the most powerful woman in Great Liang. No one dared look down on her anymore, because everyone knew one terrifying truth. The new emperor treasured Shen Yuexin more than his own life. Meanwhile, far below the throne, Xiao Junli silently watched the coronation. His face remained expressionless, but his eyes looked empty. He once had the chance to stand beside Shen Yuexin, but he destroyed it with his own hands. And now, someone else sat beside her instead. The ceremony finally ended beneath endless cheers. That night, snow fell quietly across the palace's rooftops. Inside the imperial garden, Shen Yuexin stood alone beneath the plum blossoms. Then suddenly, warm fingers gently wrapped around her hand. Xiaochun. He quietly stood beside her beneath the snow. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Xiaochun finally looked toward her. "Do you regret choosing me?" Xiaochun asked softly. Shen Yuexin looked at the falling snow silently. In her previous life, she lived only for love, and died because of it. But this life was different. This time, she chose herself first. Slowly, a faint smile appeared on her lips. "For the first time in my life, I have no regrets," Shen Yuexin said softly. For a brief moment, Xiaochun's cold expression finally softened. Then he gently pulled her closer into his embrace. Snow continued falling quietly around them, and beneath the endless winter sky, the cold villainess finally rewrote her fate.